I was about to jump into the 11 dimensions or to my group. I just thought about it and I just asked the beings of light if I could go back. You know, I mean, I just thought, well, at least I'll ask. I don't know if they're gonna let me. Maybe they would have said you ain't going nowhere.
Okay. Hi, Soul Family, and welcome to Haja Hill's YouTube channel. I'm your host, Haji, and this is Amazing Download Stories, first ever. And our guest today is Rafael Garcia. Welcome to the show, Rafael.
I thank you, Haji. Really, really happy to be here again and share my stories. And thank you for putting it together for everybody.
Okay. So I'm going to say a little bit about Rafael, and then for those that saw his NDE story, we never actually said how he came back. He's clearly alive. He's here with us now, thank God. So I'm going to give him a chance to explain how he came back from the NDE experience, and then he'll go into what the main topic of this video will be is the dimensions, his downloads about dimensions. Okay. So Rafael Garcia experienced a near-death experience in 2004 and an awakening of consciousness that has led to him understanding the fabric of our multidimensionality. Raphael traveled the world for 20 years, and he started with his spiritual awakening when he lived in Germany in 2009. He is a Native American from Mexico, and his mission is to share his experience about the fabric of our soul and the higher levels of consciousness. His teachings will assist you to tap into your multidimensional powers, learn about multidimension manifestation, that sounds fun, astral projection, using the quantum mind and experiencing the 11 dimensions of consciousness. Perfect. And so today, out of all those amazing and fun things to talk about, we're going to talk about the 11 dimensions of consciousness. Okay, so Raphael, please tell us, how did you return to us? How did you come back to the world of the living?
I know. Well, yeah, when I had my NDE, I came to the point where I saw the console live, the live review. I went to the Akashic Records. I saw my parallel lives. I saw different universes. And then I was at a point where I saw the 11 dimensions. And at that point, I was like about to go and go into the dimensions and fly back to the dimensions. And there's like groups, levels that we all kind of here like school that we all go through different levels. So I was gonna go to my group, my level. But at that point, I realized that if I went, I was gonna basically leave this body, Raphael's body. So, and at that point, I just kind of thought about my family, and it wasn't the right time to leave just because I don't know, my sister was pregnant at that time, and I just felt like I wanted to wait, to maybe to her baby was born, and then I wanted to say goodbye to my mom, and I was just like, so at that point, before I kind of was about to jump into the 11 dimensions or to my group, I just thought about it, and I just asked the beings of light if I could go back. I mean, I just thought, well, at least I'll ask. I don't know if they're gonna let me. Maybe they would have said you ain't going nowhere, then I would have stayed, but. I just thought, okay, well, I'll ask to see if I can go back, see if they can give me extra time, and like an extent. I asked for an extension for my to be there, and then they said, yeah, okay, you can go back, and then I came back. So that's how I kind of came back in this realm.
Great. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Now, for those that really follow NDEs, you know that this is a common theme, right? So clearly for those that, we love that leave for good, they didn't come back, right? But for those that have these near-death experiences, they say that they either see a loved one or they think about a loved one, or sometimes when they really don't want to come back, they're like, no, it's good here. I'm not going back to that planet. Then they have, they'll start seeing what could be like, oh, your kids are going to be so sad, or your parents, or this and that. So this is kind of what has supported some people believing in a soul trap and thinking that this is a false light. And so I'm mentioning it for those that are thinking that, like, we have to have, when we, all questions will be asked. So is there any part of you, like, what makes you feel secure that this was your decision and that these beings are exactly what they presented themselves to be?
You mean my decision to come back here?
Yeah, your decision, yeah, do you feel like it was fully your decision, that there was no manipulation, and that the beings that you see as the council are really true beings of light and goodness?
Yeah. Well, the things like when you have all these experiences, you actually realize that that's the real world, and then you realize that this was all a dream. So that's the whole thing about, people that have had the experiences, and many teachers, many masters, or whatever, just anybody in general that start having the experiences. Then that's when it's revealed by your higher selves that this was all a dream. So, so that's when you realize, wait a minute, that's the real world. This is the dream. This is the video game.
The video
So
game.
it's more real than anything, because in that experience, that's the real world, and you realize that this is just a video game, or the illusion, the dream. So,
So,
yeah, so 100% is the real world, that they're real. So
so
yeah,
it's an intrinsic knowing, like you just know, like, no, this is right, this is correct, right? And that,
yeah, exactly. It's just
okay,
know that that's the real world. Yeah, that they're
okay.
real.
Okay, so that's what we wanted to just clear that up so people know that, Raphael is here with us. He's back, and then how he got back. And so now if you can, so the whole purpose of this series, and I'm so happy that you're the one to start it off because you've had so many experiences. So the point of it, when I'm saying downloads for people who don't understand, a lot of people who come back from NDEs or spiritually transformative experiences say that they have downloads. And this is mentioned in the movie The Matrix. So, like it just shows you that this is something that's real, that people come back and they have these knowings, like these instant knowings that just kind of like are just pushed, like you put a USB or, a flash drive in a computer, like they're literally being pulling in data from other sources, So these are the things that I felt like I watch a lot of NDEs, but you don't see people really getting a chance. Like they want to talk about it, but they don't really have a chance to just start cataloging what they've pulled in, what knowings they have that can help us here in this video game. So this is kind of like the cheat code, I guess, or something like that, where you guys are gonna get an idea of what's happening, or what Raphael was able to figure out once he came back. So this particular video is going to be his downloads about the dimensions. So if Raphael, you can start telling us a little bit about the 11 dimensions you experienced.
Yeah, I love that you used the analogy of the Matrix, because that's exactly how I came to understand it. When I started having all these experiences, that's the way I kind of like to talk about it or say it is like being a plug from the Matrix. So it's my higher self, unplugging me from this Matrix, from this lifetime, and but kind of like pulling me out and unplugging me, and then seeing, all those other lifetimes, the parallel lives that are happening at the same time, and then seeing, the council of light, and the Akashic records, and the dimensions. So at the end, yes, it's being unplugged from the Matrix, and then you're right, and then people that are having these experiences, then they're able to download those informations, those experiences, and bring them down to this realm of this reality, and then share. So there are downloads. So that's a great way to say, yeah, the people are having these experiences. There's just downloads from these other realms, and then, just to share, just to help people understand more the fabric of the reality, and that we're all living in a dream, and there's the different dimensions. And again, these teachings have been taught for thousands of years. It's nothing new. It's been saying for many years. But at the end, it's just people through having the experience of sharing. So again, we're all just here to remind everybody, so that we're all on the same page, right? So yeah. And yeah, so when once I had my ND, I saw the 11 dimensions. At that point, I didn't want, I mean, I knew that if I went, I wasn't going to come back. So then I decided to come back. But then later on, I ended up just going back to the afterlife, to those other realms. I was given I didn't actually, I was lucky enough that I didn't have to go back and not come back in this body. So then definitely, they kind of like let me then have the experiences of starting to explore then, the other realms, or these other experiences. And I was just very fortunate, because I did want to go back. Like I remember asking for a few months, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting and I was like every day praying to leave. So
Let me
it was
back
kind of
in.
weird. I know, like, what's going on? Where you guys are?
Where
But
did you go?
Where'd you guys go, man?
Yeah.
And it
Mm.
took a while and then finally later on, they kind of, I started going, I like went through my awakening where then I started going, having out of body experiences and then start, having all these experiences. And then I really just realized like it was just my awakening. And then, actually they did come again, they came again in 2009. The light came again, kind of like ready to take me if I want to. And I just said, you know what? I think it took like 4 years though, 4 or 5 years for them to come back again. So I had a little bit, I waited too long, and I was like, well, I don't think I want to go now. I think I want to stay. So I just said that I wanted to stay, and they let me, stay, and then I just that's when I was able to, start going through all these experiences to my awakening. And now I realized that it's, maybe all along has been to so that we can share with the world, and then we can talk about all this stuff so that people that are starting to have their awakening as well, just to guide them, right? Be like a
Yeah.
guide. I'm just kind of like trying to, I'm not the only one. There's many people out there, so we're all kind of all of us, sort of as a collective, guiding all the people that are having their experiences. But yeah, I definitely would like to share about the dimensions, because as I went through my awakening, then my higher self started showing me the different realms or dimensions that all souls evolve through, so, and again, I'm just putting a number like 11 dimensions, but I try to tell people, don't even worry too much about what dimensions what, and because they're just reference points for more than anything. Because somebody can say, oh, there's someone says there's 12 dimensions, someone says
Yeah.
15, 20, 30. It's really infinite, but we're not even ready to understand most of the dimensions, and they're all one anyway. That's just something to try to explain something that is kind of very complex. So that's why we have this,
I,
this
I,
labeling, right? Because I had come to the point where I came out of all the dimensions, and I saw them. I saw like a bubble, and I saw the layers, and there were all the dimensions. But then all the layers disintegrated, and then I just saw a bubble of light. And then I realized, yeah, they're all one anyway, but just the reference points is just for us to,
I,
to
I'm
kind of.
like, I'm sitting here like freaking out because I'm loving that you're saying this. Like when I edit, I'm going to have like lights going all around you because you don't understand when you said 11. There's people I know for sure that are on the internet, doing their round of interviews saying that there's 12, and there's some people who say there's 15. And so I'm so glad that you're explaining and to help people really pay attention to this. That first off, that there's probably much more. Like numbers really just don't matter, and that they all become one. It sounds like that's what it is for all of this. Like even when people are meeting councils and stuff like that, they say on a certain level, like this is just for our human brains to understand because they're really communicating with other aspects of themselves. And so again, these are the things that we even now, like people are going to watch this video and be like, I don't understand anything that was said between any of them, because they're not ready
Right.
yet. But it's the human brain cannot really understand the like you said, the fabric of reality. It can't. We do as souls and as spirits, obviously, it's our home, but the human brain is not yet, right? Not yet. You're saying at some point we'll be advanced enough that this will all be like child's play, for the human. But thank you for mentioning that so people understand that, oh, he said 11 dimensions and the other guy said 12, so he must be wrong. No, no.
Right. No, no, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I try to tell people, like, and then again, too, like, I'm going to explain the way I saw them. That's just my perspective. So, because it's like, I tell people, it's like putting like a puzzle. We're all putting a puzzle together of the universe, or just how everything's working. And then, so that's how then like for NDEs, they're having, the council of light, the life review, and then out of body experiences, and then the dimensions, then there are people that are started having experiences to see the dimensions. Again, I'm explaining it from this angle, and this other person is explaining it from this angle. Like we're all trying to you know understand it from different perspectives. So I would just say, don't worry so much about what mention what. It's just try to absorb the information, but what everybody's sharing, and just go with that, and then just know that, I mean, at least from my belief and my experiences, there are definitely dimensions, and it makes sense because it's like going to school, right? Like you go to kindergarten and elementary, there's levels, right, of evolution of growth,
Yeah.
and it's the same for souls. There's different levels of
Now,
soul growth. So
Now, I want to ask one question that's in my head that is not going to be really part of the dimension. So before we jump into it, I guess I'll just ask you each one, like, okay, tell us about dimension one, like how you experienced it, etc. But you were saying that between 2004 and 2009, the light council didn't, communicate with you. Now, do you think that when you went to sleep, because people say that when we sleep, our soul, if we're lucky, is going out on great adventures. And I know there was an NDE where this woman said that, um, she used to see things and when she was as a child, like we all kind of saw like, scary monsters or this or that in the room, but she saw like real things in her room. And she said that they would say that they were waiting for her to go to sleep so they can be with her, like that, that her soul knows them, but she as a child didn't understand who they were. And I remember thinking that, like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So do you feel like you were communicating with them in that time, like during those years, and you just didn't know, like maybe during your sleep and your astral travels?
Very likely, I don't remember, but it's funny that you asked me because I, my entire life, I mean, I guess until who knows, until maybe the last 10 years or something, I could never ever remember my dreams. Now, the only thing I could remember was one thing. If I could remember a dream, and there were like layers of, there was like a web of light. It was basically like, imagine like a web, but of light, of energy. And that's the only thing I could remember. And I was just like, what in the world was that? It's kind of like an energy, like a flat energy. It was kind of like infinite, like of energy, like a grid basically of
Mm,
energy. And it was like out in space. And I was just like, that's weird. I don't even know what that means. But until I started having my experiences, that I understood that that's the layer of the dimensions, so the level. So that's one dimension. So that's kind of how they break through these layers. So I was basically
mm,
traveling through all the dimensions probably my whole life, but I just didn't remember,
wow.
that's the only thing I could remember. It was like, man, that was weird. It was later on until I could remember my dreams that I was like, oh my God, all
Wow.
along I was going through the dimensions and I didn't even, but I couldn't have any recollection of anything. I think your higher self, for your own good, not to go crazy or at the right time, like all along, I didn't start having the experiences till later on, just so
Hmm.
I could relax in this lifetime and I travel a lot and had a good time and then I started having through my experiences. So, I think my soul decided that, I want to give him a break because at least in this lifetime.
Oh my God, I love that you. I'm glad I asked that question. That's why I don't really create questions prior. I just let it happen and flow, like what comes to me, because that is everything as well. Like people, there are people. I have a friend who's like, she says that she never dreams, and she feels like she's such an uncreative or unconnected to God type person because she doesn't dream. And I'm like, no, don't believe that. Like I tell you, don't believe that. Because I dreamt a lot as a kid. Like I was definitely psychic as a kid, and I turned that off. Like it was a day when I was like, nope, not dealing with this anymore. you know and so now I don't remember my dreams that often either. Like I do have some, but I don't. So I've heard somebody say that when you're remembering dreams, it's because your soul has not actually completely left the body completely, like it's like kind of somewhat inside, and that the dreams are your subconscious. It's being pulled from your subconscious and whatever memories and visuals you've seen. So for those people who don't dream and they feel like, oh God, what's wrong with me? Don't think there's anything wrong. Like, I mean, I think that it could, like he's like Raphael is saying, it could be that your higher self, like you're just all over the place doing super things, going to super planets, and your higher self is like, okay, the body can't deal with this, so don't worry
Yeah,
about it. Go back to sleep.
yeah. It's like remembering parallel lives or past lives. It's like you gotta be ready or too because people will
Hmm.
go nuts. Like imagine everybody
Yeah,
start remembering like that, just it'd be too much. So I think
yeah.
it's a good thing that the people don't remember. I mean, at least when you're ready, you're sort of you gotta come to a point where you reach a level that and I think the experiences too were like Dolores kind of says, baby spoon, man. So I was on baby spoon for many years. I'm still on baby spoon.
Okay.
I like-
So baby food for Raphael, baby food for all of us. All right. All right. So now let's jump into the dimensions because at this point people are like, okay, what are the dimensions? So let's start with number one. I know it's a lot of information. This might be two videos and me editing
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah,
night.
yeah,
It's
of course.
okay. It's okay because I love it. So let's start with dimension one and just explain because people understand that you're getting this down, like you're explaining to us what the dimension is, but did you experience these dimensions? You're telling us the ones you experienced?
Yeah, I've experienced them and I
Okay.
became part of those I became
Perfect.
one and merged. I mean, again, when I say became a fraction of seconds, I don't
Hmm.
really, I'm going to explain the little bit that I know is like just having a glimpse
Okay,
of these
perfect,
dimensions,
perfect.
like I don't really, wouldn't be able to, no, I really don't know anything, but I had a glimpse of everything. I mean, not
Hmm.
everything, but some of the experiences. And I'm just sharing, but yes, I actually became all these entities and one with this dimension. So the little that I experienced, but yes, I would love to share all these
Okay, let's
experiences.
let's let's jump into dimension one.
Yeah, it's okay. So then dimension one, the way again, they're like the way I like to explain them is more like realms of experiences, opportunities to experience a different experience throughout our soul evolution. So the first dimension or realm I like to I call, for me was the quantum realm. So becoming an atom, I have become the atom a couple of different times. And so I entered the quantum realm. And this is kind of like, the Marvel movies, you're going to the quantum realm, like Quantum Mania. So I went into the quantum realm. And which is possible, like, I mean, these are things that, again, I'm not a master. I can't just, oh, let me go into the quantum realm right now. I really can't, but it's just, I have gone in there and it's just spontaneously. But as I went into the quantum realm, I became the atom. And when I became the atom, I came to realize, like I mentioned before in the last interview that you had with me, was that it was the same thing as being the multiverse. The atom is one with the multiverse or the source of the multiverse. So that was, the mind blowing experience that I was like, here I am, an atom, and it's the equivalent to the creator to the source. So the atom is one with the source, right? So it's like it's very powerful. I mean, it's pretty deep stuff. So it's like, so then that's kind of like when you're like, oh my God, because as I became the atom, then I went through the dimensions and until I became the source of the multiverse. And then at that point, I ended up coming back again to the atom. And that's when I realized that the atom was one with the multiverse, the source of the multiverse. So it really was that experience that I had with in the quantum realm. So so that was one of the experiences, just realizing that it was being the atom was being one with the source of the multiverse. So it's kind of like, well, the atom is the source. It's a fraction of the source, absolutely. So that was one of that experiences. And then I had another experience where later on, again, I went into the quantum realm and then I became the atom again. And in this other occasion, as I became the atom, I realized that there was like codes running through all of these, all over the atom. So when it says like 99% empty space in the atom, it's not empty. It's, well, at least from what my experience, what I saw is that there were codes running through all this, through the out the atom, like millions of codes of just white codes, and kind of like in the Matrix, like in the movie The Matrix, those kind of codes. The ones that I've seen in The Matrix or Transformers, those are like the symbols that are kind of like similar, kind of like the ones that I saw. And then again, I still don't really know what the symbols are, but from my understanding is like I believe that there's some kind of like codes, like a galactic universal codes or like source codes from the source that created the simulation. And that they actually are everywhere, because if we're there in the atom there, then they're literally everywhere, like all the source people don't see them, but then but I believe that the codes can be like a galactic universal language, and then at the same time it could just be like information, like experiences or information that people experience. They're also storing those codes, because like I mentioned before in I said that if there was like a device that could read your electromagnetic fields, like an MRI that read your electromagnetic field and then read your atoms, those that like through a laser or something, then it would be able to read all your lifetimes and all your memories, because it's all stored in those symbols. So again, that's the little bit that I came to realize. Again, I don't really, I think it's through levels of experience of consciousness that you just probably start diving more into the codes. And then one thing that I realized too could be like once you get to the level of master, like ascended master level, then you can start manipulating the codes. You see what I'm saying? So So I believe that's what it is too. Like so, I become the architect, like one with the architect of sort of this, or one with the source, right? So I will be, I think this is I'm not there yet, but I believe that that's how it works with the ascended masters. They will be able to just see the codes and then manipulate the codes to change the whole simulation. So, for example, like I want to change the codes, and I want to like change water into wine. So I just modify the code in the matrix, and I turn wine, into, well, water into wine, or or being like an alchemist, right? I'm going to turn this into gold. All you got to do is modify the code, and then you turn it to gold. Or I want to be able to modify my own molecular structure. So then I'll modify the codes, and then I won't age. I'll stay young.
Mm.
So those are abilities that I mean, I think only the ascended masters are able to get, or once you get to the evolve enough. But that's something that I came to sort of kind of understand, kind of like how what the codes, how kind of they work, and I mean, what I believe is that that's kind of like the structure of the matrix. And
Yeah.
that's why too, if you see the movie The Matrix, there's codes everywhere. That's how that's how I see it too. I've seen it before too. I just see old quotes everywhere, like in The Matrix, and so I have experienced that
Wow.
myself too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I like that you said that because it's like it reminds me of and I'll put the quote because I don't know the quote offhand, but like how Jesus is said to have said that everything that he did in regards to changing the water into wine and etc., that we all have that power within us, that we could have we have the potential to do that as well, and I like that in the previous interview you said that this, like you're saying, ascended masters might be able to manipulate the matrix, and it gives us some security that not just any Joe Schmo can go out there and start switching up things, like that you have to have passed a certain criteria and gotten a certificate, and like we know that your intentions are good before you can do that, because otherwise it will be chaos. Um,
yeah.
and
The system will let like
won't let you.
will let no, it won't let anybody like, and that's funny that you mentioned that too, because I came to see how the matrix kind of works with the dimensions and everything. And imagine just like the screen that we're like this the screen right now. There it is right here. And then I saw, like the layers, like I saw my, the layers, which are like the dimensions or whatever, of evolution. And then I saw how a soul, any soul, all souls, and of course all souls ascend little by little, right? But eventually, as the soul reaches a certain level, like let's say, it reaches this level, as it keeps going up through lifetimes and experiences, it reaches this level, the matrix knows automatically that that soul has reached that level. So it's an algorithm, kind of like an algorithm
Hmm.
that works, that it knows like everything, like where all souls are at. So then it'll kind of like take that soul and kind of like take it up to the next, it'll ascend, then it'll take it to the next level.
Wow.
And then it'll know, like, well, so then this soul's here, and then it knows, and then it picks it up a little more, and then so this whole thing, that's kind of how it works, the whole matrix. So and then this one, so all souls, and then okay, then I'll lit up a little more, a little more, and then okay, this one's ready to come up here. And then this soul is up here already. Okay, this soul is ready to download information from a little higher up here stuff, and they can help the lower ones, or something
Yeah.
like that I was able to see that,
Yeah.
it was like kind of like this whole thing works.
And it gives a whole new meaning to the word ascension. Like you're literally ascending the levels, of the game, I guess, to some extent. And then the other question I had, as you were speaking, is you said source code, and of course, it's a movie that came out because we know they're always telling us secrets through these movies. But source code was a movie that came out. Do you believe that this galactic universal language, these symbols that you see in the Matrix, is that equivalent to what people are saying is light language? I don't know if you've heard of people.
Yeah, I heard the language, right? Yes, I think so. I think so. And
Okay.
like I'm not able to, speak the language, but I know there's a lot of people on Earth that, again, everybody has a different mission or different talents or different things that they're here to channel to spread. But I
Mhm.
believe so. Yes, I believe that, from what I heard, that the light language, and there's people that are able to speak it. Yeah, I absolutely, absolutely. And
Okay.
again, that's
Cool.
just scratching the surface. But yes, absolutely, there's a lot of people that are out there already. So yeah,
Okay.
I believe that that's what it is.
Cool. Cool. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the first dimension and being the atom?
Yeah, I'll talk about how I realized that in the quantum realm, and that's kind of like how it works with being able to time travel. Um, So, I mean, again, the way I came to understand it, that past, present, and future, it's all intertwined, right? And it's all happening at the same time. And in the quantum realm, it's a way to be able to time travel to different timelines. So the way I've experienced it and myself is like I've been able to yeah, and this is something I'm just trying to explain it because it's nothing new. Like, when people have their clairvoyance and they're able to see, have a dream or vision of the future. This has been going on for thousands of years, right? Oracles and just anybody. I mean, like it could be anybody like, oh yeah, I saw this happen and here we go, and it happens, right? So then people are able to have this clairvoyance, being able to see the future. The way I came to understand, again, just how I kind of came to understand it is that it's through the quantum realm that we are able to time travel in the part our consciousness is able to travel in consciousness through the quantum realm. And like basically like atoms, how they work, that they can coexist at two different times, three different places at the same time. So we're basically connecting our atoms into those atoms that are in this future timeline. And we quantum entangle those atoms, and then we're able to lock them in, and then we're able to quantum jump into that timeline. So we're basically going into the quantum realm, and you're having access to that future event in the quantum realm, because again, everything's a simulation, everything's quantum, like everything is an atom. So then you're just having access to that simulation or that quantum realm, those particles and of information, right? Because everything's information. The codes are also, like I said, could be like a galactic language, but also it's information. So which is stored there. So then you're just having access to that information in that simulation through in the future timeline, and then also to the past, because I have had the experiences. I travel, I've seen a lot of stuff in the future, so I've been able to quantum jump in the quantum realm. So that's why it's called quantum jump, right? You're able to quantum jump. You're going in the quantum realm, and you're able to quantum jump timelines. And then so I've gone into the future, and I've gone into the past too. And one of the past, and again, it can be different experiences. In this lifetime, I went into the past where when I was born, and then I went to I actually went there, going there, and I by my soul, my consciousness went there, and then I saw my birth, and then as I came to Earth, um, I came to Earth, and then it was really incredible because I remember being there, witness. It was really. I'm like, oh my God, it's my mom. Here I'm coming. It was pretty incredible.
I'm
And
on
then
my way. I'm on my way.
I know. Oh my God. But I mean, I have time travel more or less my whole life. So it's nothing. This kind of been on me. I've seen spirits and time travel. I didn't mention that to you last time, but I kind of been doing it my whole life, more or less. But it's been kind of normal for me. But yeah, I remember I wasn't like shocked, like, oh my God, what's going on? I was just like really happy, like,
Mm,
oh my God, I'm witnessing my birth. And then as I came, I'll share with you because I haven't shared yet in a podcast. As I came, as I came out to Earth, uh, I saw like an explosion energy that went through
mm,
that whole. I remember seeing like all the trees and all the birds felt the energy. It was just a huge, like a supernova explosion
yeah.
that exploded. And again, that's all babies, not just me. Like it's just the energy that comes in once you're
What?
born. It was really incredible, and I remember how that explosion went. And I remember seeing even like all the trees kind of like flew and all the birds flew. And I was just like, whoa.
What? Oh
So
my God. Oh my God. Wait, 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 wait. So you're saying like, okay, you're saying this happens with all babies. So this in itself, my God, like people stop and really think about this. Like there's people like clearly who want children and it's a whole beautiful moment. But then there's people who have had very traumatic coming into the world. Like like either the mother giving them away or like not wanting them or just all types of weird situations. So there's some people who when they think about their birth, they think, like it was nothing. It was like the worst day ever or whatever. Every experience, every child coming into this earth is a massive explosion of energy, of like a miracle, like an absolute miracle. That is amazing, right?
man, it's like, yeah, if people would know how incredible it is, it's beyond magical, to see
Now,
that.
do you think that energy is the soul? Is the yes, is the soul?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
the
what it is?
soul. Mhm.
Wow, we are
Yeah,
powerful.
I mean the soul. it's divine. Your soul is divine, right? So it's a fraction of the source that, and that's why it's like, yeah, that's why there's that explosion. So
Mm.
yeah, that was incredible, you know. So I remember seeing that. And then I also remember that was probably the most one of the most powerful experiences too. That I was just like, oh my God, that's all babies. That's you know, welcome to Earth, you know. It's like so yeah, for all mothers out there, you know, just know that when you're
You're
giving
doing the
birth,
work.
like it's
You're doing the
a
work.
miracle. Yeah, yeah, it's a miracle. It's a miracle for sure.
Wow, wow.
And then yeah, and then I also had an experience where I had time travel when I was like, I don't know, 4 years old, 3, 4 years old. And I went in so it's like, you know, so just time, we're able to time travel. And once you start having access, you know, not that you have access, but you start becoming aware. That's why I'm doing the show and that's why I'm sharing this, just for people to be aware. And
Mm.
then of course, like I mentioned before, like oh, how do you get to that level of how do you have these abilities? But you just gotta master the lessons, right? The
Mm.
love, the compassion, the integrity, the you know, forgiveness, letting go, all this stuff that at the end kind of helps you start having these experiences. But I was able to go to when I was like 3 years old, and I time travel, you know, so my consciousness is able to then quantum jump into that timeline. And then I remember being there, my soul, my spirit, all my particles, all my atoms, right? So I'm quantum jumping. And then I see little Rafi there with my mom running around and laughing.
Oh.
And I was just like, that was so cool. And I'm like, oh my God, there I am. And then it was like, but then all of a sudden, and then my mom, you know, like I stopped and I looked and felt there was somebody there. And that was me, you know, from the future or from me. And I'm like, oh my God, I just see the little Raphael seeing me, my spirit, you know, like I've seen spirits my whole life. So
Wow.
so I sensed that, but so and I remember my mom was kind of looked at me because I was like looking. And I even remember kind of trying to hide. Like I'm just a
Hmm.
spirit, but I was trying to hide behind the wall. I'm like, oh my God, he's and then my mom started tickling me, you know, because she was like, well, what is he looking at? Because there was nothing there, but I was there. And then she just tickled me, and then I started laughing, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I quantum
Oh,
jump again. So, you know, so just different experiences like that. And also into the future as well. Like, I mean, you know, many times for my future or other people's, you know, like being able to you know, quantum jump into different, you know, that things, you know, that are gonna happen in people or, you know, even or different things that will happen on Earth, you know, situations and
yeah,
just different things, you know, that but that's kind of like how I came to understand, like, oh, okay, so that's really what's happening when people are able to see the future or having this clairvoyance. It's
yeah,
kind of like how I came to understand it. You know, just another explanation of kind of how it works that people are able to time travel in the quantum realm. So that's my experience, the little bit of experiences that I have from you know dimension
okay,
one or realm one. It's you
okay.
know trying to experience the quantum realm. So I don't
Okay,
know if
so
you have
there's,
questions or
oh
anything.
yeah. Well, well, first just a comment. Like, I love that story. My God, like this, I don't think we're gonna get past two or three dimensions because I'm already like immersed, right? But like, so goes to show you the fact that you saw yourself as a, you know, for between just 2 years, so 3 years old and 4 years old, as a spirit. So when you're saying, oh, as a child, I saw a lot of spirits, you might have been seeing yourself the whole time, just coming and checking you
Yeah,
out, you
that's
know?
true. That's true. That's true.
And it goes back to when I said that I had that experience where I felt an energy and massive energy come in and was like, you are mine. And I'm like looking around like, who, what? You know, could have been a version of me coming in saying, hey, you know, we're one, you know? So, that goes to show that there's some people who also growing up. So with you, it doesn't sound like you had any like scary situations like with spirits, as a child. There are people who are like clairvoyant or have all these experiences who talk about being hounded by dark energies and dark shadows and all that kind of stuff, dark spirits as children. And in some of them, one or two of them let loose that it was aspects of themselves. So it really just shows you that, and I don't know how, I mean, I'm saying this, but I don't know how we would even do this, but it's like, it's kind of it kind of pushes you to try to keep all aspects of yourself positive because you don't want these scary monsters coming and checking on you. And it's just another version of you.
Exactly. And yeah, and I think it's perception too, because I remember talking to some friends a while back, and I was like, you know, like I was kind of telling them, like, yeah, these beings are coming to visit me and stuff, and then I was like, okay, if right now these beings walked in, I mean, when I see beings, man, they're huge, man. They're like, you know, I don't know, 20 feet high. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
they're not small, you know, or something like that, 25 feet. I mean, they're huge, you know. So imagine that spirit just came. We're like talking here. and then all of a sudden the spirit comes. And for me, it's just a being of light.
I would be
So how
screaming
well,
and
how would that
running.
person see it, right?
I would be screaming, running, and the whole interview's over, basically.
Exactly. Right. So that's what I mean. So then people they're like, oh my God, I got scared because I saw that was their perception, maybe because they're not used to it. Here I am seen as a being of light, and this person's running out, screaming out that they saw something that they didn't know what it was. But I think it's just a perception. So if people say, oh, it's just because they don't haven't not been able to understand it yet. One day they will, or in another lifetime or whatever. But I think it's just maybe because they didn't know how to interpret it. Just you saw this huge thing, kind of like monstrosities. I mean, because they're huge.
Hmm.
They're not like little.
Yeah. So it
You
sounds like
know, they,
there's a lot of like work that has to be done in order to really navigate this world, from the human perspective. Like you can't just, like you said, you can't just jump in it, like it's too deep. The water's way too deep. Um, and then so just so that before we move on to the next dimension, just so that people understand, so what you're saying is that you have to be at a certain point, I guess you could say spiritually, morally, to even be able to access these things, right? Like you have to kind of, you said, pass the lessons and stuff. And
yeah,
then
I mean, that's how I came to understand it, because it's the more you purify your heart, the more you're shining, you're polishing your diamond or your soul through, life experiences to keep coming back and, having all these experiences and mastering lessons. Then that's when, you start having access to all these
mm,
experiences and abilities. And that makes sense too, right? Like, I mean, and then
yeah.
also, even to see other lifetimes, right? I mean, you gotta be ready, like I said before to you, like, it's like, because there could be some lifetimes there was a lot of suffering, but you gotta get to the point where you're evolved enough to be like not to take it. But you're already on, like I say, when I went into the afterlife or whatever, that was the real world. And all along this had been a dream, a simulation, so
Mm,
you gotta get to that point where then you can start slowly having access to other lifetimes and not
yeah.
get caught up in it, right? Because like I mentioned before that I had, I was an African American slave or whatever, like different lifetimes there were a lot of suffering,
Yeah.
so to go back to that space and see that lifetime and not get caught up in it, because you
Yeah.
gotta be at a level where you're able to understand it, and then also just to have the experiences. Then as you let go of everything, all attachments, all non-judgments, all that stuff, then that's kind of like what I was saying, the algorithm knows the matrix, so then it takes you up higher, right? And then
Mm,
up in these higher realms is where there's more access to this information or just experiences. But again, yeah, you got to be at this high frequency. Then and that's why I said you can never do anything harm or anything. Like there's zero negativity. It's all about creation and love and evolution. So but the lower realms, is just to experience the duality, and which
yeah.
at the same time, the experience kind of wants to. That's why they created this realm, this duality,
Yeah.
because it's an
And I,
opportunity for experiences.
And I feel like when you've been in the thick of it, in the dirt, in the muck of it, the lower dimensions and all the suffering and the pain, it actually pushes you. It's a catalyst to get the heck out. It's a catalyst to say, I don't want to deal with this. I'm moving upward. I'm not staying down here. So we could see it that way. And I always want to speak to the people, having had a life that is definitely not as bad as most. I mean, not most, some. It's been very difficult this time around. So I like to speak to the people who are like right now, like they can barely, pay rent or can barely, find food to eat or in the middle of a war zone. Like if I don't know, they'd be watching YouTube, but if they happen to see this video at some point, I just want to say that, you mentioned that even when you're looking at past lives, you can't really get attached. You got to detach and kind of kind of pull out of it and know that you're bigger than this and this experience, that it's not really, quote unquote real. And so I want to just remind people that, like, don't get so stuck in the story and maybe start empowering yourself to change the story in any way that you possibly can to make it a better story and start moving out of the muck and the dirt. But the last question that I had about this, because I feel like people might want to know. So besides getting to the point of getting access to these abilities, um, is it kind of like how, like if I wanted to flex my arm, I would just squeeze, I know to squeeze that muscle. Like I know what it takes to flex my arm. Is it something that is just like a natural thing, or do you actually need to sit, you know what I mean? Like how is it actually done? Because people talk about, oh, it manifests, so just, see yourself in this, or imagine going into another parallel. Like it's very kind of like wishy-washy and ambiguous. But is it something that is like a technical kind of skill where you like know how to go into the atom and read the code and start moving things so that you can go into the past or the present? Or is it kind of like in almost like a seventh sense or something, and it's innate?
What was the question again? So like, how do we know or how do we experience it? I'm
Like
sorry.
like say someone is at that ability, they've got that that door open, they can access this ability. How do they from that point actually do something like going to the past or manipulating the atoms and like all the things that you're saying? Is it something that they just intrinsically know, like something has unlocked inside of them that they just know, oh, I just have to think this or feel this or whatever, and then I can do this?
Right, I think so. So it's kind of like, and your higher self will know when you're ready to, right? So, and then it'll start, showing you, revealing this information, and then it'll just kind of like become natural. But again, there's a process, right? Because what I'm telling you is, it's been a journey of, I mean, in 2009 was more or less when I really started having this kind of like intense experiences. So it's been like 14 years. So it's been
Mm-hmm.
a little process, little by little, like baby spoons.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And but yes, I think then then the more it becomes like natural. But again, you just kind of gotta build up little by little,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll start becoming more, more natural. And the other thing too, like I guess the last thing I kind of maybe want to mention about the quantum realm, well, that's kind of like too how I came to understand, how I mean, I'll explain a little more in the fourth dimension. That kind of like that's when we start having our awakening and we start understanding the parallel lives which are all happening at the same time. Um, but I like to also, you know, the way I so like to, I sometimes use the analogy of the quantum realm to be able to explain then the parallel lives, which I'll explain at the fourth dimension. But so imagine like a circle, and then with many many dots or lines, and each like whatever, 100, 1,000, let's say 1,000 or 100. Let's say 100 to make it simple. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
100 lifetimes in a circle, and but all those lifetimes, are all happening at the same time, right? Like they're happening now. They're parallel lives, past and future. They're all happening now, but at the same time, so through the quantum realm, that's how you can quantum jump to those parallel lives. So all the people that are having access to those other lifetimes, they're quantum jumping the particles. Kind of like the same thing that I was saying, like in the quantum realm, we can, quantum jump into the future or into the past. It's our consciousness, right? Or our soul that's able to time travel in this timeline, this lifetime. But then I can also quantum jump in parallel lifetimes, which are happening in the past, or I can go into the future. Like I mentioned to you before, I went into one of my future lifetime, but I've got to a couple from the past. And so all really it's my higher self showing me being able to quantum jump my quantum particles in the quantum realm to the other lifetime. You see what I'm
Oh,
saying? So that's the other thing too with the quantum realm, that it's just it's a tool that it help us and allow us to then to quantum jump to other lifetimes, and then having access to that simulation, right? To those atoms. So if I quantum jump to that other lifetime and able to see, I'm just able to quantum jump into that simulation, which is composed of atoms. You see what I'm saying? Everything's composed.
wow.
So all I
So,
am is able to quantum jump and have access to that simulation. And I'm
mhm.
quantum and like kind of like quantum entangle those atoms as well. So yeah, that's kind of like, and that's why now quantum mechanics is going to have like a huge, impact on human consciousness evolution, because that's how they're going to prove reincarnation. It's quantum mechanics will be able to prove reincarnation and
Oh,
and
wow.
and,
Yeah.
and parallel universe, parallel universes and all this stuff. Through the quantum, because again, this is the thing. Like, really, people are trying to understand, well, how in the world are atoms, communicating, a million miles away, and,
Hmm.
if you split them, and they're all, so it's like, then that's exactly what they're going to be able to improve that through the quantum realm, and then that's going to lead later on to understand. Oh yeah, we're multidimensional beings. There's all these other lifetimes happening at the same time, and then people are going to start having access to those other lifetimes through quantum jumping. So yeah, that's a
Wow.
little bit.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay. All right. So I'll let you get something to drink, and we're gonna go into dimension two. Uh, and we'll see how we progress. Like if we only get halfway through and we got to take a break, like
Yeah,
just
that's
you let
fine.
me know. I'm available for this. I want to get this because this is a lot of great information.
Yeah. And again, like,
Um,
and even the higher realms, I don't really know any. I just had a glimpse of that. a
That's
second
fine.
of a glimpse,
It's more
but
than
I'm trying to
it's more
explain a
than we
little more the
know.
little ones, further down ones.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think up to the fifth dimension, I kind of have little to say, but the other ones is glimpses of it.
No, no,
But
I'm
yeah,
glad you're on.
let's break it down.
I'm glad you're honest about it, and it's more than we know now, so it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
All right, so dimension two, what is that all about?
Okay, so dimension two or realm two, or just it's and then so then the soul, I saw how it goes through all these levels of experiences, right? So imagine just like a layer here. So then that realm of that dimension one, it's that evolution of consciousness, right? And then you can experience yourself in the quantum realm for, time doesn't even exist, but however long you want, a million years, and in the quantum realm or whatever, and then after that experience, you kind of like dig on to the next experience. So the evolution of the soul kind of like, okay, now the soul can go to the next level of experience. So the second one, again, is just another kind of different experience, right? So then that could be like, becoming then a microorganism, and becoming a microorganism, and then becoming, then eventually after experiencing the microorganism realm, then then maybe you start becoming a plants, roses, and the planet, all the plant kingdom that you start exploring, and then that's another experience, and then so a lot of people, I don't know, you can call that, let's say the second realm be like the microorganisms and plants and maybe animals. So we can categorize again. I'm just categorizing that in that category, but you could actually categorize each one in a category or a realm. But at the same time, let's just for sakes trying to explain the experiences. There's this experiences of being able to have this other levels of consciousness where you're a microorganism and then a plant and an animal. And then I have actually also become, like a cell. Like I became a cell, and I became I've become a plant. I have become I actually, in the life review, when I had my life review with the Council of Light, besides I became everybody and everything in that life review. So I became the other people, but then I became the trees, I became the roses, I became the bees. I mean, I became everything, like all the animals and all the plants and the birds. And so, so one thing that too, that when I had my ND, I was able to then become everything. And I remember just, every experience was just blissful, very blissful and different. And then also I had another experience where I was in my room actually, and then all of a sudden I came out of my body, and then I had an out of body experience, and I traveled in a wormhole, and then I was in like I was in like in nature, and then all of a sudden I was like an ant, and I'm inside the body of an ant, and then all of a sudden I see like the forest, and then as I was able to see that all the trees are like there's energy inside all the trees and all the plants flowing through the inside of them. There's like rivers of energy, and that's where and the codes were in there too. And I remember everything was alive, like everything was, and the whole forest was communicating with each other, with all the other through the roots, with all the trees, and so it was pretty incredible. So it was just a different experience. I mean, being a tree in nature, it's very blissful. It's communicating with all the roots and all the trees, and giving oxygen, and being with other animals and birds. And so I mean it was a pretty incredible experience. But
Wow.
so yeah, so I
Hey,
have experience being a tree, or becoming an animal, an ant, a bee, um just a birds, and
mm,
yeah, a cat, just kind of like all the animals, different animals. And it was just that experience of having that other opportunity to experience that other, it's just a different experience. You see what I'm saying? That
yeah.
they're able to experience in the kind of like the second realm, the second dimension. And
Mhm.
but I don't know if you want to ask
Oh
some
yeah,
questions.
I was trying to hold myself back, but it sounds a lot like Avatar. Like if people have seen the Avatar series, and that's the energy that goes through the trees and through the whole forest and how connected it all is, like one brain. And I'm gonna bring up the law of one, the raw material again, because when they talk about this, they call it densities as opposed to dimensions. But when they talk about the second density, one thing that I always remembered, and I love this idea because it reminds me of Groot in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Groot, the tree that moves, like it's
Oh yeah,
animated,
yeah.
you're personified. So the thing that they mentioned there is that they say that these second density animals, trees, plants, etc., if they are in contact, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, so someone's watching this and is more understanding of the raw material, but that if they are in contact with a third density, so like a human being, then they can start to get to quickly get through the second density to get to the third. Like they would help them to start getting the, what, I guess advancing, ascending to the third density.
Right, right, right.
And so I had a friend who had a plant, like it was his pet plant, and I'm like, oh, you're making sure that that plant gets to the third density, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and taking feral, like you have feral, dogs and cats and things, and making them pets, like as you bring them into your home and into your experience and communicate with them on a regular basis and give them love. Love is big, right? That's that energy. If you give it love, then it's going to help that energy make its way to the next level, the third density. So I see that more clearly as what you're saying, as you're saying what you're saying. And then the question I had, so like think about a butterfly, like the lifespan of a butterfly versus like maybe a sycamore tree or a tree that's been around for God knows how long, Um, it makes me think more about that because it's like, okay, if you're in the second density and you're trying to get to the third, I guess it would make sense to be a butterfly, because it's just like you just have
Yeah, of
a
course.
very short a very short lifespan as opposed to a tree that could be around for, I mean, some of these like for, I guess decades or more, just kind of just standing around. And I guess it's also why they say that trees have so much wisdom. Like they really are, even though they're staying in the second density, they have been there for some time and they've experienced a lot. So I just kind of came to mind the difference between something that's spending a very short while in the second density to something that's spending a longer time in second density. And then the question, so I think this turns into a question for you. So you're saying that, and I mean, I'm assuming, so you can correct me, but that in the third density, in order to ascend, to move to the next density, that you have to, pass these lessons, like you have to have these virtues or these attributes. How does an energy or entity, I guess probably an energy in second density, sorry, second dimension, make its way or prove itself ready for the third dimension?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just experiences. I mean, as far as evolution, I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's through some lifetimes that you're a predator, and then you're not a predator, then so then it's maybe that balance of energy. And then maybe later on you're a pet, right? Like in a house. So then you already went through that being a lion and being a, whatever, a little bunny or
Mm,
whatever, just different experiences where you're like, you're well, then maybe you make it to being like a pet in the house, like you just mentioned, right? So and then again, it's just for the experiences because I always say like the source is everything, right? It's everything. So then all it is showing, giving you experiences, right? So okay, I'm going to show you what it's like to be in the quantum realm, and then I'm going to so that you because it's everything. So I'm going to have you a little taste so that you can experience it yourself too, right? Because you're a part of me. So then in the second one, it's just you becoming, all these microorganisms and then plants and trees and seeing how it's all connected to nature and all these things. And then, becoming an animal. And then of course there's the different stages of becoming an animal that, and then, each realm could be millions of years, however long you want to kind of like experience it in a way. I don't think there's a time frame. But I think just kind of like, and then maybe later on, maybe you're a pet or whatever. And then maybe
mm,
there comes a point where you're like, okay, you like already had enough, or if you kind of like feel like, okay, I already experienced this realm enough. I already was different, many different animals and I was many different trees. And, so then now I'm ready to then move to the next like, level of experience. See what I'm saying? Because I already experienced it all. I was already
yeah.
from a microorganism to a butterfly, right? To a tree, like you kind of like did it all. So then it's
Mm,
like you kind of like already became all the animals. You kind of already became everything. So then it's like, okay, now you're ready for the next. And it's funny because I wanted to share another experience because I had a friend that had a bunny for a pet, and she went to put the bunny down, and I remember going with her. And then when we put the bunny down, it was pretty incredible. I saw how the soul of the bunny traveled in a wormhole, and it went to the exact same place that we go to. She went to like see the Council of Light.
what?
Yeah. It was like,
Wow.
no way, dude. So they all go through the same place. It's not like, oh, they don't go to they must not go, they must go somewhere else or they don't go anywhere. It's like, oh no, because because I've been inside different animals, right? And it was me, Raphael, my soul, so there was no difference between being a little bird or a little ant to being in this Raphael body, like it was me still in that. So it was the same thing, so here's Raphael and a little ant. And let's say I pass away as an ant, I'm gonna go to the same place that this Raphael is going, it's just the same place, is to go see the council. So yeah,
Oh,
even all the animals,
wow.
like yeah,
Can you imagine the life review for a rabbit or like a mouse or
right.
like
There's a little
like
like a rabbit council, like
oh my goodness. That I mean
yeah.
just that idea in itself is going to change so many people's lives just hearing that like and of course it supports being like vegan or vegetarian or something like that but it's now here's something I feel like I should mention it's like and I'll put the quote because I don't know it offhand but it's something that I was reading recently that and it's going to be very controversial but it stopped me in my tracks and I didn't even finish reading it like I something told me to try to read the Gospel of Thomas so I started and it didn't get past the first page because almost immediately it was saying that Jesus had said something in regards to, and I'll put the post so that you can read it because I don't know it word by word, but something to the fact that if like an animal is consumed by a man, then that animal will then become a man in its next life, in its next incarnation. But then it also said that if a man is consumed by an animal, so like people who like maybe they're consumed by an alligator or a shark or something like that, that man becomes that animal that consumed him. And I'm like, what? It just stopped me in my tracks. I was so confused. I just let it go. But I'm feeling like I should mention that because I'm just like that's interesting at the very least. But yeah, I just felt like I should mention it. So is there anything else in dimension two that you wanted to mention, or do you want to move to number three?
um, yeah, let me think. Actually, I was gonna say, can we take a little break?